Welcome to the training video for the ADM Pirates Revenge Carnival Ride. In this video, we will show you how to set up, operate, and tear down the Pirates Revenge ride. When you first get your ride, you will notice that the power cord comes with bare pigtails like shown here. It is recommended to use 50 amp service only to power the Pirates Revenge ride. You can use many different types of 50 amp plugs. Shown here is a 50 amp twist lock plug, which is commonly used on large tow-behind generators. After positioning the ride on a flat or semi-flat surface, disconnect the ride from the truck. After disconnecting the truck, remove the fencing from the fence rack on the passenger side of the ride trailer. You will need to access a storage box below the fencing to fully set up the attraction. Next, go to the back of the ride and completely remove the outrigger legs from the trailer. These are easily removed by loosening the tension bolt and removing the clevis pin. After the outrigger legs have been removed from the back of the ride, use the leveling jacks to level the frame of the ride. Before cranking, lower the jack foot on the stabilizing jacks as far as you can and then replace the pin. The stabilizing jack feet do not all need to be in the same hole. If possible, simultaneously crank both back stabilizer jacks to get the ride level front and back. The ride tires need to be completely off the ground to properly operate this ride. After the ride is level from front to back, adjust the stabilizer jacks on all four corners to get the ride level both side to side and front to back. Remember that the tires need to be completely free from the ground for operation. After the ride is level, it is time to install or reinstall the outrigger legs on the four corners. Only the back outrigger legs can be in for travel. The outrigger legs for the front of the trailer is commonly stored in the passenger side storage compartment. When assembling these outrigger legs, it is important to use the very top hole on the vertical leg and ensure that the horizontal arm has the long part of the leg shaft pointed down. This allows you to use the full height of the outrigger legs. Install all four legs and secure them using the clevis pin and the tension bolt. Both tension bolts need to be hand tight. After all four outriggers have been installed, you'll need to put flat pieces of wood underneath each outrigger leg. Remember that at this point, the entire ride is level, so you want to fill the space between the ground and the leg as much as possible. This means you'll need to carry more than just 4 pieces of wood around with you, but instead multiple pieces of different heights. Once all of the wood has been placed underneath the outrigger legs, crank down the back side of the ride and the front side, placing 90% of the weight on the outrigger legs and 10% on the stabilizer jacks. Do this by cranking the stabilizer jacks up until no weight is on them, and then apply 1 crank of pressure back on the stabilizer jack. Next, it's time to put up the pirate flag. Carefully climb up to where the flag is mounted. Remove the transport bar by pulling both pins out of the frame side and the flag side. Remove the pin on the main spindle, raise the flag all the way, and put the clevis pin back in place to hold up the flag. Once finished, carefully climb down. Only after the flag has been installed shall you release the transport rods. The transport rods hold the boat to the A-frame of the ride to prevent movement while in transport. First, loosen the turnbuckle transport rod. Remove the R-pins and remove the rod, once again replacing the R-pins back in the rod. Then remove the rigid transport rod, again replacing the R-pins back in the transport rod so they don't get lost. Next, position the control console to the operating position by pulling the spring-loaded pin and swiveling the control console arm into place. Some units will have a stabilizer leg that can be put down so the control console is stable and does not bounce. The last step before operation is to turn on the power. Using a flathead screwdriver or something similar, unlock the electrical box. Once unlocked and open, turn each circuit breaker on one by one. To operate the attraction, first release the emergency shutoff switch. Do this by twisting the button to the right and then it will spring up. The 2 other sets of switches are for the load actuator and the motor. First, turn on the motor and let it warm up for a minute or 2. When you are ready to operate the attraction, release the load actuator by pressing the green button. Make sure the load actuator is completely down before you start to move the ride. To move the boat back and forth, press the flow control lever to one direction and then the other. When the boat reaches the highest point before going the other direction, move the flow control lever to the other side. Repeat this for the duration of the ride. It takes a little practice to get this timing down right, but after a few cycles, you should have it all down. Once the ride is over, simply release the flow control lever and let it stop on its own. Once the ride has stopped moving, press the red button to raise the load actuator. Do not use the load actuator as a brake. It is not meant to stop the attraction. It is simply there to hold the ride from moving while loading and unloading. Using this to stop the attraction will damage the load actuator and its components. When it's time to pack up the ride, the first step is to turn off the motor and lower the load actuator. The load actuator needs to be lowered so you can properly attach the transport bars in a later step and can stay down for transport. Next, turn off all the circuit breakers one by one. Once completed, swing in the control arm into the ride using the spring pin to secure it. Before you do anything else, you'll need to position the transport bars on the back of the ride. Remove the transport bars, commonly stored in the passenger side compartment, and attach the rigid transport bar first, followed by the turnbuckle transport bar. Tighten the turnbuckle transport bar firmly. Only when the ship is secured with the transport bars should you take down the flag. Carefully climb up, remove the R pin, then the clevis pin, and carefully lower the flag. Replace the clevis pin and secure with the R pin. Then take the transport bar for the flag and secure it to the frame. Now it's time to remove the outrigger legs. Starting in the back or tail of the trailer, lower the stabilizer jacks so the ride lifts up and the outrigger legs are not touching the ground or wood. You shouldn't have to crank very much to release the pressure off the outrigger legs. Remove the outrigger legs, flip them upside down, and reinsert the legs, but do not push them in all the way. You will need that room to crank the stabilizer jacks. Now raise the jacks up all the way, which in turn lowers the ride closer to the ground. Once the stabilizing jacks are all the way up, then push the outrigger legs in. Secure the outrigger legs with the clevis pin first, then tighten it down with the tension bolt. Once you're done in the back, you'll need to go to the front, lower the stabilizer jacks, slide out the outrigger legs, but this time leave them out. Put the clevis pin back in the sleeve and thread the tension bolt in all the way, but do not tighten it. Remember, these outrigger legs do not stay in for transport. Next step is to hook up the ride to the transport vehicle. Remember that your stabilizer jacks need to be put all the way up before transport. This includes the jack foot. Thanks for watching this training video on the ADM Pirate's Revenge.